In an emotional moment that brought together leaders and mourners from across the world, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered a powerful tribute to legendary American civil rights leader Jesse Jackson. Speaking at Jackson's funeral in Chicago, Ramaphosa described the late activist as one of our own, highlighting the deep connection between Jackson and South Africa's struggle against apartheid. The ceremony celebrated a life dedicated to justice, equality, and global solidarity. The funeral gathering. The funeral service took place at the headquarters of the Rainbow Push Coalition in Chicago, an institution founded by Jesse Jackson himself. Hundreds of mourners packed the venue hours before the ceremony began, reflecting the immense impact Jackson had on communities across the United States and beyond. Among those in attendance were prominent leaders and figures, including Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, civil rights leader Al Sharpton, and Felix Tshisekedi. Community leaders, entertainers, and international dignitaries also gathered to pay their final respects. Jackson passed away on February 17 at the age of 84, leaving behind a legacy that shaped civil rights movements for decades. Ramaphosa's emotional tribute. During his address, President Ramaphosa spoke not only as a world leader, but also as someone representing a nation deeply influenced by Jackson's activism. Ramaphosa told mourners that South Africans felt a personal connection to Jackson's life and work. According to the president, belonging is not determined by where someone is born, but by the struggles they choose to stand for. Ramaphosa said, "Today we are also here as South Africans to claim Reverend Jesse Jackson as one of our own. We lay claim on him today because he laid claim on us first." The statement drew applause from those attending the service, emphasizing Jackson's role in supporting South Africa during some of its darkest years. Jackson's role in the anti-apartheid struggle. Ramaphosa reflected on how Jackson used his voice to challenge apartheid at a time when many global leaders remained silent. Jackson famously encouraged people around the world to keep hope alive, a message that resonated deeply with South Africans fighting racial oppression. Ramaphosa said Jackson saw the suffering of South Africans as his own. He looked at a people he had never met and said, "Their pain is my pain, their chains are my chains, their struggle for freedom is my struggle." Jackson's connection with South Africa began decades ago. He first visited the country in 1979, addressing massive crowds in Soweto just 2 years after the death of anti-apartheid activist Steve Biko. His presence gave hope to many who were living under apartheid rule. Global activism and protests. Jesse Jackson became one of the most influential American voices advocating for economic sanctions against the South African apartheid government. In 1985, Jackson was arrested during protests outside the South African embassy in Washington. He was joined by his sons and fellow activists in demonstrations demanding international pressure on the apartheid regime. Jackson also elevated the anti-apartheid movement on the global stage. He marched alongside prominent leaders including Oliver Tambo and British activist Trevor Huddleston during a massive demonstration in London that drew more than 150,000 people. Through speeches, protests, and diplomacy, Jackson helped bring worldwide attention to South Africa's struggle for freedom. Witnessing history. Ramaphosa also reminded mourners that Jesse Jackson was present for some of the most defining moments in South Africa's history. Jackson witnessed the release of Nelson Mandela from prison in 1990. 4 years later, he attended Mandela's historic inauguration as South Africa's first democratically elected president. Ramaphosa said Jackson attended these events not out of obligation, but because he truly believed in the cause. He was there not because it was required of him, but because it was in him to witness the emergence of the South Africa he had campaigned for. Jackson's legacy. Reflecting on Jackson's legacy, Ramaphosa placed him among the great leaders who advanced the global struggle for justice. He mentioned figures such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela, saying their work formed a powerful chain of leadership passed from generation to generation. Jackson, Ramaphosa said, ensured that the dream of equality continued to inspire people around the world. South Africa later honored Jackson with one of its highest awards for foreign nationals, the Order of the Companions of O.R. Tambo. Jesse Jackson was laid to rest at Oakwood Cemetery in Chicago's Woodlawn neighborhood, but for many around the world, his legacy remains alive. Ramaphosa concluded his tribute with a powerful reflection. No medal or honor is wide enough to express what Jesse Jackson gave us. It lives in our Constitution. It lives in our freedom. For South Africa and for millions who fought for justice, Jesse Jackson's voice will continue to echo across generations.